Meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please? Okay.
Mrs. Chiquini? Here. Mrs. Cooper Trinidad? Here. Mrs. Malachi is not here. Mr. Giuliano?
Here.
Mr. Nuss?
Here.
Mrs. Tortorella? Here. Mrs. Whitty? Here. Mrs. Delbarry? Here. Mr. D'Agostino?
Here. All right. Would you please join me in the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the school building and notice of said meeting sent to the New Jersey Herald and the Star Ledger.
The Sussex-Wantage Regional School District is a responsive, caring, child-centered community. Our mission is to educate each individual to become a confident, competent, lifelong learner and productive, responsible citizen by providing challenging opportunities in a safe environment through a partnership of families, schools, and community.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we will move on to the report of the superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. I'd like to invite Mr. Schwartz up to present the students of the month.
Good evening, Mr. Gall, Mr. D'Agostino, members of our Board of Education, and members in our audience tonight. It is with great pride that I stand before you tonight to present the students of the month. Every month, I have the pleasure of meeting with each of these individuals, and during these meetings, I am able to gain insight into their hobbies, favorite subjects, and extracurricular activities that they participate in. Each of these students tonight have been highly recommended by their teachers. As I introduce you to each student, I will provide a brief snapshot that will help them earn the wonderful accolades that have helped them earn the Student of the Month this month. In 6th grade this month, the recipient is Alexis Luberger. When I sat with Alexis, she told me that her favorite classes were reading. In particular, Alexis enjoys reading James Patterson and appreciates the adventures and different places that a book can take you. Alexis would like to be a teacher someday. She has always had a great respect and admiration for her teachers and looks to be able to bring and hopes to be able to bring learning to life just like they have done for her. Here at SMS, Alexis has been involved in our field hockey program and Girls on the Run. And outside of school, she can be found journaling or crafting. Alexis's teacher stated the following when recommending her for the student. Alexis is conscientious, kind, friendly, helpful, and most definitely excited to learn new things. She's a good student who always puts her best effort forward. She's also dependable and a good friend to all of her classmates. We are looking forward to watching her as she continues to get involved here at SMS. It is with great pride that I introduce everyone to Alexis, this 6th grade student.
Congratulations. I like those glasses.
Congratulations, great job. In 7th grade this month, the recipient is Abigail Shipman. Abby's teacher stated the following when nominating her. Abby is an excellent student. She completes all work quickly and thoroughly. If Abby misses assignments due to sports, she asks her teachers what work needs to be completed and takes it upon herself to email teachers when she misses work. Abby is polite to her teachers and is willing to work with all of her classmates. When I sat with Abby, she told me that her favorite class was math. She is confident in this content area and has always considered this class to be fun. Other than cheerleading and jiu-jitsu, Abby has a passion for cooking and would love nothing more to follow this passion into culinary field someday. As a student council representative for her homeroom, Abby adds a lot to the school community, and we look forward to all that she achieves moving into her 8th grade year. It is with great pride that I introduce Abby as a 7th grade student. In 8th grade this month, the recipient is Antonio DeLillo. When I sat with Antonio, he told me that his favorite class is science. He enjoys the hands-on activities and the projects that he gets to do in his class. When asked what career path he might be interested in when he gets older, Antonio indicated that his goal is to become a police officer in a community where he can support the families and individuals there by keeping them safe. At SMS, Antonio enjoys going to classes with his friends and learning with them. Outside of school, he can be found gaming on his PS4. Antonio's teacher stated the following: "It is clear to us that Antonio is a great candidate for this recognition. As he continues to enjoy his classes and the challenges that they bring, his outlook on life is positive. Whether it is his favorite gym class or participating in science class, his teachers see that Antonio is ready to set bigger goals, that he has a positive outlook, and that he is capable of achieving great things. As we say goodbye to him at the end of the year, I can say that he has made a tremendous impact on his teachers and peers along the way." It's with great pride that I introduce Antonio as the 8th grade student of the month.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. I have a couple other recognitions to make this evening. We have 2 outgoing board members, Mr. Giuliano and Mr. Nuss. I'm going to ask Mr. D'Agostino to remain up here. I know he wanted to say a few words, but being a Board of Education member takes a lot of time and energy, and often it's kind of a thankless job. So I know we appreciate you being on the board, coming back on the board, and just giving up your time.
Luckily, I'm happy to go.
So, Mr. Nuss, we'd like to invite you up first to present you with this plaque. It says, "Thank you for your service to the faculty, staff, and students of the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District." This is actually the first time you will.
You need to get a new one?
Yeah.
I don't want to spend any more money.
I'm gonna let Ken talk if he wants in a sec too, but I just wanna thank Mr. Nuss for his time on the board. It's gonna be a little bit quieter at the meetings going forward without him, but he'll be in the public, so it might be a little louder. But he's a man that stands for what he believes in and truly cares about our community, always puts the community first. Even if he gets us in trouble sometimes. So we're gonna miss him very much, and he's a great board member, a great friend, and thanks for all you did.
Thank you very much. I'm not gonna talk, you guys, most of you have heard me over the time. It's been a true pleasure. We've had a lot of ups and downs in this district, I guess like every other district. But it's been a pleasure working with everyone that I've worked with, well, not everybody. So I'll leave it at that. Let's have a good meeting. Thank you.
We're gonna get to the bottom of the unemployment for you too.
Perfect, because that's on the agenda tonight.
And next up, we have Mr. Giuliano. Again, our experiences with Mr. Giuliano have been nothing but short of extraordinary. It's always been sound judgment and great voice of reason. And his plaque reads, "You have helped shape the hearts and minds of so many. Thank you for your years of tireless dedication and love and devotion towards the students, faculty, staff, and parents of the Sussex-Wantage School."
And with Ross, just a great dude. Enjoyed our time on the board very much with him. Very busy in his personal life, but always took the time to answer the phone and talk about, hear me out when I had board business and a million questions to ask him. Usually about how we could, deal with Mr. Nuss. So this is a great. But thank you so much for your years of service, Ross, and we're gonna miss you as well. Would you like to say anything?
It's been a pleasure to serve the community and the school on the board, and I appreciate everyone's support. And again, it's been a true pleasure working with everyone here.
Thank you. Well, we always encourage everyone to stay for the meeting. We love having you. If you didn't want to stay for the length of the meeting, now would be the opportune time to leave. And just to report out one other district happening, special thanks to PTO, Wantage Township, Sussex Fire Department, the Rec Department for setting up our annual tree lighting holiday fair. It's an extraordinary event. Merry Christmas, everyone, and happy holiday season. That's all I have this evening.
Right, nice and short this week. Thank you, Mr. Gold. At this time, we will move on to audience remarks. Member, oh, I'm sorry. What am I?
Sorry, we have the audit presentation.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The 2122 school year, Ms. Heidi Waller from the Sussex-Wantage event. Hello, thank you for having me present. Should I present this presentation?
Sure, if you.
Thank you for having me. Here's the news of the audit. I'll put together, we'll focus on the two pages, first two pages of the presentation. First, you can audit and copy of the questions. You might want to have in the platform, which is the audit report. So, on the first page, we have the general fund, which is the operating fund of the district, where the bulk of the construction, administrative, capital outlay, transportation expenses are recorded. The budget is supported by three different types of revenue. The first is local revenue, which is basically tax revenue.
Do we have a microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if we have one, but I can't hear.
I will speak up then.
Okay.
Sorry. So we have the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the district, where the bulk of the instruction, administrative, capital outlay, transportation, custodial expenses are recorded. It's supported by three different types of revenue. The first is the local revenue, which is principally your tax levy. That was the final budget for that was 16.778 million. Actual is 16.858 million, so there was an excess of 80,000. And that was primarily due to an excess in tuition revenue of a little under 25,000 and miscellaneous revenue excess of 51,000. Then we have state revenue or state aid. Final budget 6,112,000, actual 6,367,000, an excess of 255,000. And that was primarily due to an excess in extraordinary special education cost aid. That's a small shortfall in non-public transportation aid, about $159. And the final aid is federal. And that's semi or Medicaid assistance revenue, budgeted at 57,000, actual 67,000, so a little under 10,000 excess. So overall, the excess in revenue in the general fund is 344,000. That's the revenue is offset by expenditures or appropriations. The final budget, including the prior year encumbrances, which are purchase orders that are placed at the end of the year, each year for goods or services that are rendered or received during that year. So what happens is they roll into the next year's budget. So the final budget, including those encumbrances, was 27.6 million. Actual expenditures 24.2. So unexpended 3.38 million. But included in the 3.38 million is 657,000 of year-end 6/30/22 encumbrances. So truly unexpended was about 2.7 million. So approximately 9% of the budget was expended, including those encumbrances. Then we'll go over fund balance, where it started at the beginning of the year and ended at the end of the year for the general fund. So started on 7/1 with 8.99 million. Withdrew a little under 860,000 from budgeted and board withdrawals for the capital reserve. Utilized 2.366 million in the budget. Liquidated the prior encumbrances of 1.4 million. We get in the excess in revenue of 344,000. and those unexpended budget balances of 3.38 million. And we've come to a fund balance of 8 million, so we decreased about 935,000. Then if we turn to the second page, I'd like to go over the components of general fund balance, because some of the money is restricted or set aside for specific purposes. So the first is capital reserve. So the capital reserve is always good to have. Sometimes it's important for capital outlay projects within the 3% budget. So it's good to have those funds and use them for the local share projects in the long range facility plan. So it ended the year with 1.257 million, which was an increase of 88,000. The 88 was comprised of, at year end, we did a board resolution to put 950,000 in there, and then there was the budgeted and board withdrawals of the 862. I do want to point out though that the fiscal year budgets, so these are the balances at 6/30/22 on 7/1/22. Fiscal year 23 budget in now using 1.169 million. Then we have maintenance reserve, which can be used for projects in the comprehensive maintenance plan. At the end of the year, you had 250,000, and using that in the fiscal year 23 budget. Then we have 2,070,000 of excess surplus that was calculated at 6/30/21. That you're using in the 23 budget, and you had excess surplus at 6/30/22 that you have to use in the 24 budget of 2.09. Then we have unemployment compensation. Based on GASB 84 implementation last year, those funds have to be recorded in the general fund, and they're used for unemployment claims, and that's 501,000. Then we have the 657,000 of encumbrances. And then finally, we have unassigned, which is your 4% of your general fund expenditures. And this is the last year that it's going to be 4% unless there's legislation passed, because before that, as you remember, been on the board before that, it's been 2%. At one point, it started at 3, then they moved to 2, and we were at 2 for a long time. Then I guess during the COVID period, they thought it would be a good idea to move it to 4. So it'll be back to 2% at 6/30. Overall, strong finances. So if we can go back to the first page.
While we're on this page, I have a question.
Yes, please.
The unemployment compensation for the, how did they come up with that figure? Is that based on what we have paid
That's how much-
previously?
No, that's how much you actually have funds on hand in the district, not for the unemployment.
We pay the unemployment claims, that's the money, that's where it would come from.
So what goes in there is, like employee contributions, board contributions, interest earning less any claims that we pay. So if we turn back to the first page, I'll go over 2 other funds that the district has. These are called enterprise funds. They're supposed to act like a business and be self-supporting. You have 2 of them. The first is the food service fund and the other is the care program. So the food service fund, cafeteria, has something called net position, which is similar to fund balance. So that net position increased 123,000 to 245,000 in the food service fund. And that increase was due to the district's participation in the Seamless Summer Program and their increase in reimbursement rates in that program. A lot of the districts that audit participated in that program for the last 2 years, and we did see some increases in the balances there. And then also you have the care program. That net position increased about 47,000 to 153,000, and that was due to the fact that the care program was operating full time, which we were also seeing in a lot of different districts. Obviously, during COVID, those programs weren't fully operational. So both of those are in strong financial condition as well. Then I'd like to point out that we have 2 different types of long-term debt or liabilities. The first is compensated absences payable. What that is an estimate of the accrued sick and vacation time of the staff at 6/30/22. And then, of course, you would budget and pay out for any retirement, any amount that was reached out. And then you also have 3.466 million in the PRS and pension liability. The district's employees are in either one or two, generally in one of the pension systems. The first is the PRS system. That's principally your aides, your secretaries, your custodians, and the transportation staff. And then the other pension system is the teacher pension system. That's generally for teachers and administrators. The one that the district has the responsibility for is the PRS pension system. So that's an estimate by the Division of Pension and the actuaries of what the vested pension liability is. But just like any other liability, you budget and pay out what the bill is that you get from the pension. It's not due all at once. Can I answer any questions on finances? If not, I'll turn to what we call the AMR, Auditor's Management Report. You happen to have that, if you could turn to page 3. I'm pleased to report that the prior recommendations were resolved. We just have one minor year recommendation, that's at the bottom of page 3. The bank reconciliation from the general operating account. It's a little gray book if you have that, or one white. I'm a visual person, so I'm glad to give you the opportunity to look. So the bank rec for the general operating account included certain reconciliations which were valid, and this was due to certain interfund transactions in accordance with the district general ledger. That was noted in the treasurer's bank rec. So minor point, and I'm speaking with the VA, I'm sure it will be resolved next year. Then if you could turn to page 7. Finding 2022-02, we're required to calculate if there's something called net cash resources and whether they exceed 3 months average expenditures in the food service fund. I don't consider this a bad thing because we have more rather than less. Gives you an opportunity to buy some new equipment. Almost all the districts that were in the SEMO summer program had a net cash resource excess during the year. So there's plans in place to resolve that. Recommendation just a little bit further down. In the Sussex Middle School student activities account, the cash balance is comprised of a number of different clubs and activities. We noticed 3 club and activities with deficit balances. I'm sure that will be resolved. Minor point. So very minor point. I will say that the district has some condition. We appreciate all the help from Christina and her staff and their patients during the audit process. We asked a lot of questions, looked at a lot of different things. There's a lot of permanent statements that talk about all the good and great things that are done. We always like to include a couple of suggestions. So on page 8, I'll go over the first one, which is COVID-19 funding. It's just an emphasis of last year's suggestion. We didn't notice any concerns or questions with how those funds were expended, but as you know, they're under a lot of scrutiny and it's a lot of money. They are coming out and auditing from the Department of Education. They're collecting 60 different school districts each year. So it's just kind of a reminder that just be cautious with what you spend those monies on and make sure you're using the proper account number, which we didn't have a concern about, that you're using the proper procurement methods, because sometimes with federal grants, those procurement requirements, the bidding requirements are stricter than the state ones. And when they come out and audit, because we've had other districts who are lucky enough to get selected, they look very much for policies and procedures. So if they're available and say Strauss Esme, then you might want to just make sure that you approve and include all those policies. We always suggest that the level of the surety bond for the business administrator, the treasurer, the duties of the treasurer changed over time. Not that we had any concerns there. And then with the unemployment trust, what happens with the payroll service provider, what they'll do is they'll take the payroll withholdings and turn them over to the state rather than keeping them with the districts. But they are keeping track of that at the state, so it's just a suggestion that we ask. But overall, one minor recommendation, very good records, not any concerns. We haven't answered questions anyone might have.
No questions. Thank you so much
Okay.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Your report.
All the very best of holidays.
You as well.
Same to you.
All right, at this time, we will move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Yes, please just come to the podium, state your name and your town of residency, address.
Good evening, my name is Jason. I'm a resident of Wantage Township. I have 3 children in the district, range from kindergarten to 2nd grade to 6th grade. I'll make it as quick as I can. I'd like to start by praising Wantage School District for the good they've done for my children. I had one that was in the early pre-K special ed program. He couldn't count, he didn't know a single number, he couldn't talk. And today he's smart as a whiz. And that wouldn't be possible without the Wantage School District. So I thank everybody from the district for that. With that being said, I start with the good, and I do have a topic which concerns me. My middle school son is 6th grade. He's a child. He has entered the middle school, and over the last 3 to 4 weeks, he's come home with complaints and issues. He's confused, saying in a certain class, they are going over current events, and some of these current events, it seems like a trend to me, are concerning to me as a parent, because the current events are based on topics, and it seems like the same topics that we choose as parents not to have our kids learn in school, based on sexuality or anything related to that. You know, as a parent, we have an option to not have our kids participate in certain classes or lessons. And now I'm hearing that, which that's great, and I agree as a parent, I should be able to talk to my son, and I should be able to educate him how I feel he should be educated. And with that being said, I feel this particular teacher, and it's a trend now, and I'm hearing now from other parents also that are saying that their kids are coming home, that this parent is using current events as a topic to push the same things that we as parents choose for our kids to learn or not to learn in public schools in sex ed class. They are now using current events to push the same exact topics behind my back as a parent, to push that upon my kid, bring topics up, show them news articles, segments, and then on top of that, to question them and kind of pound in their head. 2 of these topics basically that stuck to me. The one was about a transgender student they were fighting for a sex change, you know, and this was the current event that was so important for that particular teacher to show my 6th grader that they thought that this was going to change his life in some positive way. So they showed him this video of this, you know, relates to a sex change on a, you know, and he came home and he said, "Dad, this is what I learned in current events today, and we talked about it." And I said, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And he said, "I was confused." I said, "Okay." And then on top of that, they asked questions. I said, "Well, how did you answer?" He said, I told her I wasn't interested. Which, as a parent, personally, I told him, you should have walked out of the class, go talk to the principal, and if there's a concern, have the principal call me. Because as a parent, I don't feel that it's right for him to be put in that predicament, forced to be questioned. You know, not only to see the news segment, but to be questioned on it. And then there was another time, and this is based on maybe a 3 to 4 week window. This has happened 2 or 3 times, at least 2 or 3 times, where he had come home another time, and I almost thought he was exaggerating. Now he came home and he said, Dad, there was some kind of a topic that was discussed about gay marriage and a gay couple, you know, fighting for marriage in a certain state or whatever. Which, does it happen in society? Yes, it does. Is it right or wrong? That is, you know what I mean? That is not something that should be decided by a 6th grader, in my opinion. This kid comes to school to learn basic history. This kid comes to school to read, write, and learn basic topics. And this is being thrown in his face and shoved down his throat. And as a parent, I don't agree with it.
I have to say, I agree with you 100%. I'm glad you're up here talking, because it freaking pisses me the hell off. And I'm gonna like, I took Advil because I had a headache, and now it's like.
Well, there's a lot of us parents that feel the same way. When it comes to sexuality, sexual identification,
brought
and
it up, I think,
religion, I don't
before.
think the school should be pushing anything down our child's throat.
You wanna
That's
know
up
how
to the
we can
parent
stop
to
it?
say
I don't-
something.
Like, this really pisses me off. And I don't, you know, it's my last meeting. You wanna bring, anyone wants to bring up ethic problem, I don't really give at this point. Parents need to call the teachers out. I don't care. Call the teacher out and let's put them on the spot.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
the
it's-
problem I saw
Mhm.
is other parents. I had at least 3 other parents now that are, you know, our kids all have friends. So their friends talk and their parents talk. So when my kids go over a friend's house or we have a sporting event, I have had 3 different parents from different kids who brought the same topic up, saying, does Travis have Mrs. Sutton in school? And I say, yeah, why? And they say, well, how do you feel about this topic that came up this past week? And I said, well, honestly, I'm not okay with it. So in talking to networking with other parents, it was brought to my attention. I guess this has been some kind of an issue in the past. And my opinion as a parent, why I'm here, I feel that this is the right atmosphere to bring that topic up. And I just think me reaching out to that teacher, we're not gonna really gain much because it's been a problem and I felt it would have turned into us getting in an argument.
So.
I'm right, I'm wrong,
I
I'm
like
right.
to, I mean, I have a feeling I know what program it is. I had an issue with CNN 10 being in this school, and I tried to get rid of it for the longest time. I know we got rid of it, but you know what? If these teachers are gonna show this stuff, I will be I don't care, I'll come back on the board, and I know they don't want that, or I'll come to the audience, and I'll be happy to talk.
But my argument,
Yeah.
my argument, that's my main argument. But to close, and I'm sorry to hold everybody up longer than
Take your
they
time.
were expecting. Prime example. I am just an average person. I sat down watching News Channel 4, the evening show, before we left. Half hour before this meeting started. I sat and I watched the meeting. And do you know what they had a segment on? A U.S. Marine recruiter who stopped a slashing incident. Somebody went to slash somebody and he stopped it and detained them and the police arrested the guy. Why do we talk about in 6th grade? Why are we not teaching our kids, hey, this is what good goes on in the world? Show them that segment. Show them the fireman that rushes in the house and saves a life. Show them the cop that pulls somebody out of a crashed car. They don't see that. They don't see that. So as a parent, I have a real problem with that because if I had to sign permission, I would have told my son, I don't even want you to be part of that class. Whether it be him go to a study hall or do something else for that segment, I would not. And again, it's not what's right or what's wrong in society. My argument is there's different ways of teaching it and there's different ways to approach. And these are kids. I know they're middle schoolers, 6th grader, he's still a kid. A kid still plays with toys. I mean, he's a kid. So at the end of the day, he watches cartoons. You know, he's a child. You know, these are sponges, and when he hears this stuff, he sucks it up. And again, the main thing I got out of it was confusion. Like, Dad, why am I hearing this stuff? Like, what's going on? And he has no idea. So that's all I have. You know, hopefully, you know, somehow the topic could be brought up and it could be corrected. But
Old business or new business, we'll bring it up.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
I had, before we have other people speak, I had people reach out to me as well on this topic. I agree with Mr. Nuss. It's completely inappropriate. If we have a process in place where parents could opt out of this type of education in sex ed, and then somehow teachers think it's okay to do it in other courses, which doesn't make any sense to me. I feel that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and this board has always tried to be transparent. And so I was sent one of the videos that was taught to kids in the middle school, and I would like to show it to the public because this is what's going on in some classes, and parents, in my opinion, need to start paying attention. So we're gonna play that. It's about 5 minutes, and then we'll continue.
Me too. Wes is talking to it. Hey, let's see. I'm over the road. I'm doing it wrong. I'm going to
We turn the lights off.
Do we need popcorn for this thing?
I'm feeling the same thing.
Right, I have something ready for the party.
Are there,
Sorry, I can't share.
Mr. and Mrs. Gunther, are you okay? This is are you okay with the kids here? Okay.
Last weekend's shooting at a Colorado Springs bar has again highlighted the danger and discrimination faced by many in the LGBTQ community, including transgender people. In 2022 alone, 16 states have proposed legislation that would restrict access to health care for transgender patients under the age of 18. That's a study from UCLA's Williams Institute. Says that since 2017, the number of youth who identify as transgender has nearly doubled. Jeff Bennett spoke with Dr. Meredith McNamara from the Yale School of Medicine. She's an assistant professor of pediatrics and specializes in adolescent medicine.
It's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So help us understand first, what accounts for the sharp increase in youth identifying as transgender? Is this a matter of greater societal acceptance, or is it a function of more researchers conducting more transgender-specific surveys?
Well, I would say it's probably a mixture of both. The number of transgender people probably hasn't changed, but young people are finding that it's safer to be who they are, so they are expressing their identities more openly now, sharing them with loved ones and presenting for medical care. We may be using better survey instruments to inquire about this as well, but I don't think that the narrative that the number is sharply increasing is an accurate representation, and it has been used to actually harm transgender people.
In what ways? Tell me more about that.
Well, if you suppose that the number of people is exponentially increasing, then that carves out the idea that there's some sort of explosion or some sort of fearful social change. And that's given cover to certain misinformation techniques that have allowed these legislative bans that you mentioned to thrive.
So let's talk more about gender affirming care, which is an umbrella term for many different services. What is the real spectrum of this type of care, and how is it determined for each patient?
For transgender and gender expansive people, that it can include a wide range of things, and it depends on the individual, and that can change over time. So for youth, that may involve some elements of social affirmation and transition, using their preferred pronouns or a name that they have chosen for themselves, dressing a certain way, certain hairstyles that are from their gender. And there are medical aspects of gender affirmation too, which can include and may include puberty blockers or exogenous sex hormones such as estrogen and testosterone.
The National Institutes of Health have been doing research on the long-term effects of hormone blockers, which you mentioned, on young transgender people. They've been doing this research since 2015, as I understand it, but they haven't released the findings yet. What is really known about the safety of that kind of treatment?
We know a lot about the safety of puberty blockers. We derived that evidence base initially back in 2011 or so from studies done in the treatment of precocious puberty. Precocious puberty is when a young child develops into more of an adolescent body at a rapid rate, and we don't know why it happens. Puberty blockers have been used successfully and safely in those children to allow them to develop socially in tandem with their peers. And we've studied bone mineral density, psychosocial outcomes, among other things, and it's been shown that that treatment is safe. Now, there is data on the safety of puberty blockers in transgender and gender expansive youth, and while it would be great to see larger studies, the evidence base is strong, and the NIH is funding and producing those at this very moment, but we have to trust that clinical investigators will release their results when they're ready.
What about gender reassignment surgery, which is another form of gender affirming care? That's not recommended for people under the age of 18. Why not?
Well, that's actually something that's a little bit of a mischaracterization. Gender affirming surgeries are very, very rare. The number of mastectomies or top surgeries that have been done within the past 5 years, the most recent data I saw averages out to about 200 a year. Everybody is different, everybody has different desires for their gender affirmation, but in the vast majority of times, any form of gender affirming surgery does not happen before the legal age of majority. And I do want to point out that in these politicized and misinformed debates on gender affirming care, surgery is being overly represented to stoke fear in the public and to convince people that politicians should be intervening in healthcare decisions between parents and physicians and patients themselves.
What are the leading misconceptions about transgender youth? What do people fail to understand?
Well, first of all, for my transgender and gender expansive patients, their gender identity is the least interesting thing about them. They are vibrant young people who have so much to offer. They're greatest assets in society, and they deserve to feel safe and loved. I think what people don't understand is that these bans have harms, real harms, not just within the jurisdiction where they're active, but elsewhere. When the state of Florida released their first practice bulletin denouncing gender affirming care, we got a surge in crisis calls at our clinical centers in Connecticut. That is unconscionable. What I also believe that politicians fail to understand, or at least that they don't care to understand, is that there are real processes that are scientifically informed that have developed the guidelines that physicians use every day to provide gender affirming care to people, and that those processes are trustworthy and sound.
Dr. Meredith McNamara is an assistant professor of pediatrics who specializes in adolescent medicine at Yale School of Medicine. Thank you so much for your insights and for your time.
All right, so we need to get rid of PBS still.
I don't see the value.
So I mean,
Great.
again,
It's the topic, that's what matters. I don't even care if it's CNN, it's the topic.
and that was
Look at
painted,
what the topic's
that was
about.
painted as current events. That was 5 seconds of current events and 5 minutes of indoctrination is what it is.
There's nothing more than mental health issues with people like that. I'm sorry to sound like a mean person, but it's simple biology. You're born a certain way, and it is what it is. Maybe people need mental health screening versus showing our children that it's okay to change their gender based on who they want to be. Today I choose to be a pancake, so let it be. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but how is it okay to show this at school? This is
That's-
in between a
that's the
child and a parent.
And it's disappointing to me too, because this board and this administration spent so much time with the new sex ed standards that came out. That video would not even be appropriate in the school district in sex ed class. And it's being shown in history class.
What is, I would like to know, I would like to know
Yeah,
what the
I was just
relevance
gonna say
is.
that.
Who-
Yeah.
who
Who
approves
approves
it?
it? Like, who sees these videos prior to them being shown in the
So I
news?
think honestly,
No one, because they're current events, and we gotta try and keep some kind of order about this.
this is, I'm gonna disagree with you because this is a very hot topic.
Okay, so everybody can talk together and then nobody will get hurt.
So no,
Nobody's
current
saying
event
nobody's
is cool, but make it appropriate for the school. School is to educate and make sure your child's safe.
I agree.
Not like, hey,
You
you can be a cat today if you want to.
Right, but
No,
we
that's in
can't
between the
freeze
parent and
everything.
the student.
So no, but
So-
what we
child.
can do is, well, I know what you're saying with that.
So a couple of points that I can
Current event.
make, just viewing it myself, is one thing jumps out at me is I would never want anyone's perception of the board to in any way be from a discriminatory nature or a biased nature. That's never been the case. My experiences with all of them has always been that they're among the kindest, most compassionate people that I've ever worked with. So I would never want anyone to have that impression. I don't think that's what this is about. Their focus behind the scenes has always been on parental rights, parental influence. And I think that's where
That's exactly
you're
it.
coming from.
That's exactly
And to
it.
Mr. D'Agostino's point, with the administration, when we originally got the sex ed standards and health curriculum, administration behind the scenes worked with other districts and really through a lengthy process of looking at all of them, auditing them, they're posted on the website where you can have a look at, how we would address a controversial topic. And then going through the process of, I believe Mr. Antilli here was last meeting, and before that, where we were getting emails. And he was concerned, he was getting an email about, if you read that Sunday email about how, you can opt out of this portion of the curriculum. And his, particular concern was, is this happening soon? I said, no, Mr. Antilli, you're gonna get that email probably most kids and most parents in the district, probably, ballpark 20 times before your child goes through that instruction, with the exception of some middle school groups because of the rotation of the marking periods. You're gonna see that a lot, and then before your child has that, you're gonna get a hard copy of the permission slip to go home with, look at it, you have questions, call us, let us know, and you still decide to opt out, you opt out. And the concern here is a topic along those lines that process is not being conducted, you're not being given information about that, to my knowledge. I'm gonna have to dig a little bit deeper on it. I know staff here was looking at it a little bit, administrative staff. But some ideas jump out at me about how we can approve these in advance. In another district that I work with, we take action over the summer to approve even a list of like 200-300 reading materials. Never really thought about videos in advance, but books that kids read. So that's something that jumps out at me as a process that the board and the curriculum committee can kind of oversee. And looking at videos, do you have to submit your video in 2 weeks in advance to your building supervisor to have it previewed? Things along those lines jump out at me as possibilities. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
You're 100%, and for the
Some of the challenge I understand from Mrs. Whitty, current
Yes.
event, but I also look at Mr. Vaughn's point about, well, what are these inspiring current events that are happening? I'm not saying this is not inspiring, but you see so many positive things in the news. Can you highlight those for everyone's self-esteem, emotions, and all that kind of
I
stuff?
would just like to know, where is the relevance in social studies to show this? Where is the relevance? Answer that question.
There is.
My guess is that news falls under current events. I'm not saying one way or the other whether I agree or not,
The teacher
but
had an intent to pick this particular topic and show it. The intent, that's the intent. That's what I have a problem with, and it goes back to parental rights, exactly what you said. With the transgender policy that Murphy stuck in here, the reason why I objected to it was because there was one sentence in there that required the school not to tell the parents. And I was totally against it. At the beginning, I had absolutely no support, and I voted it down. I think you and I voted it down. you.
We
So-
took that part out.
We did take it out, but my point is, there's no reason this government should dictate what the heck we, as a board, are letting my issue is with, if a teacher is going to do this, whatever class it is, they've already shown that they're not following what the board has an envision of. That's how I feel. I feel this is devious and I have a problem with it. Whether I'm sitting here as my last board meeting or I'm sitting out there, I don't care. I'm gonna have an issue with this. And if it doesn't get changed, I'll take it to the news. I don't care. This is not right to feel they're going behind our backs, the parents' backs. The problem that I will tell you, parents, is that, and I applaud you guys for coming out, because a lot of times I get messages and I address situations, and it's like me being the jerk because nobody is here in the audience supporting my complaints that I'm getting. So I applaud you guys for coming out, and you guys got more minutes. Voice your opinion, let the public hear it on there.
Honestly,
And
there's
it
not enough
feels-
followers on this. I've looked at the YouTube channel. It's like, what, 200
Hey, but,
people?
you know-
Cool. That's nothing. Honestly, like it's got to get out there.
Yeah, and
to
I'm not
make a
saying
difference.
pick a side on an issue or anything, but you folks in particular were vocal about your feelings towards cell phones.
Yeah.
Tonight's the second reading of the cell phone policy, which you effectuated some change. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't effectuate change, but
I don't.
you did that.
But
Mr.
no, you
Boswell-
guys are awesome. Honestly, I don't have complaints about the board. It's about what's being taught and what the parent or what the teachers think. Like, oh, I could just push this onto my students without
10 years of
parents'
problem.
approval.
10 years of problem.
You know that's where the issue is, and a lot of subjects have to be in between me and my son or me and my daughter. Not a teacher's influence on it. I don't care what a teacher has to say. You're there to teach my child basic stuff, math, social studies, science. Not, hey, you want to be a unicorn today? Go ahead, buddy. That's okay. Because in my house, you can't be a unicorn. You have to be a boy. You have to be a girl. Whichever one you decide to identify as, cool. That's in between me and my child, not my child and the school and the whole outside world. No, not until you're 18 and you move out. And then it's up to you. You want to be a unicorn? Go ahead.
And branching off with what Mr. Gall said, I don't think it's appropriate for children to be sexualized at all. I don't think they should be watching current events about teenage pregnancies, either. It's not solely because it's an LGBT issue. It's children should learn history, science, math, reading, writing. They should not be learning this in school, especially in history class.
100%.
Their brains aren't even fully
The confusion
developed
after watching
yet.
this,
Like,
this will be better than an adult
that's
watching
the,
this.
yeah.
What did we learn? Here, this is how you could block your hormones. That's the only thing I picked up from that video. Now, you're telling, 12, 13-year-olds, hey, this is how you could stop and change everything in your life. They don't even know what they want to do. They don't even know what they want for breakfast. You're going to tell them, like, hey, this is how you stop and you can become a girl. This is how you stop and you can become a boy. Don't have this conversation with your parents. It's okay. The school will teach you how you can do it without them even knowing. Like, come on. I know it's not you guys in particular, but the teachers, like, you're doing wrong at that point. Come on. Like,
And two other things I just want to expand on. One, I would always encourage everyone, if you have a challenge, to first go to a teacher and talk about it and see if you come to a resolution. I understand why you wouldn't go on your statements. The other thing is, as a public school district, as you can imagine, we're bound by state learning standards. But that's where that whole piece about, opt-outs and informing parents came into alignment with the health standard. So there's some of that we can do here, but I know Mr. D'Agostino aspires to make change at the state level. But that's where that just try to effectuate change with that.
I also feel like, I talked to the couple board members, but teachers are paid for by the taxpayers, and to me, they need to be held accountable. And the attorney's not here tonight, but I'd like to talk to them about, could we audio record lessons? Can we You know, and it could help in many, a kid could come home and have trouble with their homework, and you could go back and listen to the lesson. But I think that there's,
I like that.
you know, I think that, you know, we record our meetings as in transparency. You know, another board member had another example,
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is,
police officers are paid by the taxpayers, right?
Right.
And they are
you
awarded
have to
on a
record
day-to-day
it, so.
basis.
So I mean, we look into something like that, you know, Mr. Gall sounds like he has some ideas, and I agree with Mr. Knox, I feel like this is almost,
It's
this is
almost a
almost
slap
like,
in the face. Is the way
they're
I-
almost doing it just to like rub it in to the board, that's how it feels, you know.
How does everyone else feel? I mean, I'm just curious.
Of course, it's nonsense.
Obviously, I agree with that, find the value of it, showing the
I
video,
just, the fact that
exposing
it's a
sixth graders.
graders,
Yeah.
the confusion.
I would imagine if my daughter Cameron, who's in fifth grade, if next year she watched a video like that, I can't even imagine the questions that come home and the damage control they'll have to do. I would be
So I think we
appalled.
need to, the board, whether whoever's new, I think something needs to be done in January that I think kind of institute something that's gonna require screening or like pre-approval before any of this stuff gets shown.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I, all right, so, well, so much for a short holiday meeting. Now, we're still
free
nine
coming
o'clock.
with some munchkins or something.
Yeah, I know, they didn't have those, but, there is, and I didn't have time for stuff for more, but
But
there
we
is.
may have more comments.
hot
Does anyone have
chocolate
any
and-
comments?
Yeah, but there are still, audience remarks are open, so, does anybody wanna come up to the podium and?
I would.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Apolito. I'm a language arts, seventh grade language arts teacher at the Sussex Middle School. And I have a letter, on the behalf of the language arts department that I would like to share with all of you, Board of Education. So I'll just wait for everybody to get it. This is too Fred, I just need one for the record. All right, so this is, Dear Mr. D'Agostino and the members of the Board of Education, as you may be aware, a change in staff schedules has recently been put into effect at the Sussex Middle School. While this change has increased teacher-student contact, there has been some unforeseen collateral damage. In making adjustments to the schedule, our librarian schedule was also changed such that our students have limited access to our library. We have been working with our building principal to open the library as much as this new policy will allow. At this time, the Language Arts Department is quite concerned about the unintentional negative impact on our program and the recent responses from our student body. Last week, several advanced students in the 8th grade ELA class were discussing the library situation at SMS. After requesting access to the library and being told it was closed, they had this to say, quote, "If they don't care about books, why should we? We should all just stop reading." As a department and as educators, we found this to be extremely disheartening and upsetting. These are our top, brightest students, and to hear this sort of discussion from students' perspectives is alarming. It should be noted that students at all levels are reacting to the limited access they have to our library as well. We have discussed this with the administration and Mr. Gall, and after over a month of limited or no access to the library, we are noticing a decline in student performance. This decline is being observed by all teachers in our department. Students are stuck with books they may not enjoy and cannot change them readily. Students are not completing assignments the way they have been. I would like to redirect your attention to the following excerpt from the presentation to the Sussex-Wantage Board of Ed by our curriculum director, which illustrates our recent success in state testing in ELA. Notable achievements. 6th grade ELA, 49% met or exceeded expectations compared to 47.5 statewide. Grade 7 ELA, 57.8 met or exceeded expectations compared to 52.7 statewide. And grade 8, 51.9 met or exceeded expectations compared to 51.3 statewide. This is in part due to the increased amount of time spent on reading with open access to our library, which is part of the Readers Writers Workshop curriculum. Our district has been using this program for 9 years, spending a great deal of money to have our staff trained in its successful program. The results are showing up in the scores of our state testing. To cut off an integral part of the curriculum is detrimental to the success we have been enjoying, not to mention the morale of our students and staff. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to the following article regarding an upcoming bill to be presented to Governor Murphy. The bill is calling for school librarians to develop a curriculum to address media literacy in our schools. The article points out the importance of access to the school libraries, the recent decline in the number of librarians in our schools, and the need for students to have access to libraries and librarians in our public schools. Please take note of the points in the article, our recent test scores, and reassess your decision to keep our library access limited. The limited access is collateral damage to a decision made to address other issues and should never have been included in any plan to address staffing in our building. Librarians have different jobs to do, and ours as teachers has been severely impacted in her ability to perform her job and to serve our school community by this decision. Once again, we implore you to work with our administration to rectify this issue and open our library so our students can resume the level of excellence they've enjoyed using with our current reading and writing programs, having full access to our library and the library.
Thank you.
This is on behalf of the whole libraries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know did we shut, can you explain, Mr. Ball? Did we shut the library down?
This has to do with what you had spoken about with like contractual issues, right? Like
Yeah, we
teachers
seek to
maybe-
rectify teachers teaching an allocated number of periods per day in an equitable fashion. The library got together with it. We've been looking at it, I'm optimistic we'll come up with some balance. Probably we come off, we'll take a little harder look at it. That, balance the needs of keeping a library open with, instructional obligations for the full number of periods.
Is the librarian teaching?
So the teachers who didn't have a full number of periods have been pushed into other classrooms instead. So if you didn't have a full number of periods to teach, additional periods that we needed, we took you and pushed you into other rooms to assist other teachers. This was talked about the last board meeting, you missed it.
But, all right. So I'm not gonna, without having an attorney here, I don't wanna ask my questions.
Okay.
Because they're probably union related and I don't need to get,
Kicked off the board.
well, yeah. I need another letter from the state threatening to sue me.
What's
The state is gonna sue you?
Well,
Are there
I'll share the letter with you guys later. from the
are there students that go to the library when, I would assume all periods of the day?
So prior to that, right, you would have discretion to just let a student go to the library.
So I mean, my personal opinion would be that in that case, the librarian should be there every period of the day if there's, students there every period of the day.
Yes.
I'm sure that
Is it that we don't have the staff?
I think there should be equitable, but
Right.
but they're still working because they're helping students find books or what have you, right? Maybe answering questions. So
I can see that.
The librarian is a librarian.
Right.
She's not a teacher.
Right.
She's a librarian.
Right.
She needs to be in the library.
That's how I feel.
How is it contractually in the contract? Like everything goes back to the contract?
Yeah, I mean, they're technically defined as teachers. They in the contract, salary guides, benefits. Right.
So in order to be fair, that's what we're.
Basically, the directive I got in the last meeting was to make sure that's equitable, right? So we can exercise some flexibility, we've been looking to do that.
How often is the library closed?
Before the
Every
equitability
day.
thing started, how often was the library?
2 periods a day for her lunch and prep.
And now how many periods?
What does the librarian have
4 or
to
5?
do?
Now the library is closed all
It's
the
a
time,
contractual
except
obligation.
when we make arrangements to bring the entire class. But by bringing the entire class, we've taken away reading time from children who are still in the middle of their book. A kid, we took some data on it in the last 2 weeks, and one of the days we had 20 children throughout the day asking to keep the library various periods of the day.
And we had to say no.
And we had to say no because the library was not open.
Well, why doesn't she not, like, if she want, like, if they want, I don't think you can, why does she need prep time? What does she do for prep?
That's a contractual obligation.
I understand that. My point is, that's contractual. I mean, there's give and take. If she's not, what is she doing? I don't
What is she
understand the
doing?
hours. I don't understand the, like, the.
She
Doing a lot.
prepares this library, she, all the books that the children bring back are sitting around here, not being put back on the shelves. So
Is there a student in here all the time? Are there students in here?
pretty much, there's,
Well, no,
There could be.
not scheduled to be there all the time, but if a student needs to go to the library, they're not able to at this moment.
Right, I guess I'm trying to understand if, I can't imagine. I get probably get in trouble.
Is the door is locked? And
Yes.
there's
And so I
nobody-
believe there's a sign out front, right? If a kid reports here, she's either stationed across the hall or in a room in proximity, and the note says, go to that room, get me, and I'll come in and open it for you.
Who's
Is that
current,
accurate?
who's currently opening? The librarian? Who's
Yeah.
current, is,
My whole thing is if, what's that period I was just talking about? Prep period. If she wants to be here, can't she be here during prep? But she can prep during her, like when there's nobody here, but you have to have a lot of time. I'm not.
usually nobody is here when she's prepping. That's what they're saying, usually it's lunch and prep, there's nobody in the library.
And so I mean, I'm optimistic this will be resolved in the new year.
I mean, the kids should have access to it, I just understand that we can't be flexible with certain people, right? It has to be fair across the board.
In my opinion, it is fair across the board with a librarian, because a librarian is just that, a librarian. So 6 contracted student time, kid time, however you want to word that, right? 6 classes of that. The library's open. Any kids can walk in at any time. The librarian needs to be here. I'm in complete, full 100% agreement with that. I'm not sure exactly how it got switched around. So you want to talk contractual periods, right? The librarian teaches STEM classes, media literacy,
Yes, she does.
right? Teaches STEM classes, but that's a new thing, okay? So she teaches them. That's when there's gonna
It's
be
an actual class, and you're.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
three periods.
STEM class, it's STEAM class, you know, the correction text, right? So she teaches that. Those other periods, she's a librarian. During that time, she's a librarian too, because she could be teaching that and other kids could still be walking in.
Other things
So-
that happen too are like if students need to make up a test or something and there's, another activity going on in the classroom, she lets us send kids to the library and she supervises while they're in the library finishing their
Sure.
tests.
Sure, I've been
She's
doing that ever
here-
since I was in school.
She's
Yep,
here for us as well as for the students.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I do believe it'll be rearranged.
So after the break, I think that'll be.
Yeah, I think so. I've been talking to Mr. Schwartz about it. Another time period that we're looking to take advantage of, probably for open access to the library, is the other schools have student contact time upon arrival, right? So like 8:25 till first period, teachers are available, work with the kids report to the homeroom. So we wouldn't do things like that here.
Any other thoughts from the board on that? Thank you for the letters and your time. Any other audience remarks, Mr. Lemon? Come up to the podium.
Chris Landgraf, Wantage Township. There's a policy in effect at the Lawrence School. And in that policy, there's Title, 9, I believe? In Title 9, it's supposed to protect our children. Within there's a time frame which administration should alert whoever may it be, whether it be the superintendent, the police, whoever, on the matters of sexual harassment and sexual assault. With this stuff going on in the school, it is not okay. By all means, not okay. If any of that happened to anybody else's family members or anything like that, y'all would be in a different state of mind. Just saying, there's a policy that's not being followed. Why is there a policy if we're not gonna follow it?
Can you please tell me the number of the policy? I'm sorry.
Title IX. Well, Title IX is the law, but the policy is one of the first, I don't have my phone on me, I forgot it.
Okay.
But it's under the Lawrence School. I can definitely get it and get it to you guys. But
I
it's,
would
and it
appreciate, I have
states,
an email, all of us have emails, we can email it to
trust me, you're gonna get one
Um,
this week.
on the subject matter of what, though?
Sexual harassment and sexual assault. And why is it not taken more serious? Why does it take 9 days for the police to be notified from the school after a sexual assault occurred in the school? Why? That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Maybe that's something or something. Go over an executive session, that's, we can't, right? Mr. Bond?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to talk about legal or student matters in the public.
All right, are there any other audience remarks?
Hi, my name is Lily Gunn. I'm a sixth grader at Sussex Middle School. Many might remember me from the September board meeting when I was honored as student alum. Or many may remember me speaking about my school safety issue. I'm here to see if you are willing to help me with my busing issue. Have you come up with a plan for my little brother, my little sister, and myself to get a safer bus stop? And now that snow and bad weather is here, it is only becoming more and more unsafe. So, I have hope that you will come up with a plan to help us.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Are there any other public comments? Yes.
I'm Rebecca Gunther, I'm from Wantage. That's really hard to explain. I'll just be honest. We think you have it covered until you see her crying to adults for help besides yourself. I likely would like to know, are there any updates in regards to our bus stop? Like I stated in the October meeting, I'm not asking for anything that hasn't been done in the past when kids live past Mount Salem. No, I'm just asking for the old bus stop that was across the street from our house to be reinstated. I see it's just for safety reasons. It's not for convenience. I don't want you chauffeuring my kids around. It's unsafe. I explained in detail Greenville Road. Please watch the October meeting if you weren't there. I understand from the last board meeting that the sub-company is having trouble accommodating this due to timing issues and the fact that they no longer carry their interstate DOT status. Please note that this is the sub-company that used to drive this route when the bus stop was across the street from our house. We are their employer. Why can we not request that they obtain this again? Why can we not demand them have it for next year? We are a town that borders New York. And many, not just in this area, but other areas of our district. One would think it's a no-brainer to be our sub-company, you must have an interstate DOT number, not just an intrastate DOT number. I understand that the sub-company is in the process of possibly being bought out by a new company. The new company might be able to accommodate these changes. They do have the correct DOT number. And it's been said that they're a larger company with possibly a larger workforce, so they may be able to accommodate us. But I'm here asking, what's our plan B? What if the sellout doesn't happen? What if the new company can't accommodate us? What then? I've been open to any remedies to this problem. I've spoken to other districts that border other states. I've spoken to people that know busing better, honestly, than our busing transportation department. They know Greenville Road better than that. They don't understand why this is not getting done either. They said someone probably comes down to two things. They don't want to help you, and people not doing their job. I've been open to honestly anything. No student should have to walk down that road. We are pinned up against a guardrail. And if we drive, there's no shoulder, there's snowbanks now. We've almost been rear-ended twice in the last 2 weeks, twice. I've been open to having small buses come pick up my kids. I've been open to them, and that is how other districts solve this problem. We are not the biggest district in this town. I've spoken to a bigger district that borders New York. How do you solve this problem? Easy, they send a small bus. They think it's crazy. Why can't we? I've been open about the small buses doubling back for my kids if the kids on that bus aren't allowed to ride with general education kids. I don't know the correct term for that. I've offered that my kids be picked up earlier so that way it will not interfere with their timing. And we are more than open to have them ride with these students. It would probably benefit not just my kids, but the students on those buses too. I have very kind kids. Some people will call them justifications on why this isn't getting done. Someone calls them excuses. Again, people don't want to help you and they don't want to do their job. I've been cited bus driver shortage, van shortage, extra hours that would have to be paid to drivers to double pack, diesel shortages, entering New York, timing issues. We're talking 5 minutes. Our district has routes so tight, we can't give someone 5 minutes. That sounds like an issue. But my favorite, and honestly always the most disturbing, is that safety is a parent's concern and that we're meeting state minimals. Again, state minimals. Our district, Wantage, strives to just meet state minimals. Yes, honestly, in theory, there's a bus driver shortage, from what I've heard. And I'm not sure on the current status of our vans and where they travel. I'll be honest. And I bet doubling back would cause a couple extra hours for those bus drivers. So it would cost the district. And yes, a sub company has another run before this, so they can't start 5 minutes early. And yes, somehow our district transportation department did not make sure a sub company kept their DOT status as interstate for situations just like this. So what is our plan B? Routes are supposed to be relooked at every single year, and they're supposed to be reworked every single year. Will it be addressed next year? I don't see a better reason than safety. When routes are looked at this year, will we be on board to making sure that students in our district get to school safely? That means being able to get to the bus stop safely. Again, what's the point of a bus stop if you can't get there safely? I'm losing faith in our district with, honestly, every passing day. Because the truth comes down to this. Our district can fix this problem. We don't have to be Plan B. We could be Plan A if we wanted to. Our district can solve every single reason and every single justification I gave by doing one thing. They could make this a district route and sub out one of our current district routes in return. That would add no added hours, no added bus driver, no use of a van, no issue with the DOT status, and no issue with timing. We don't have a route, we don't use our buses for the walkout kill route. Our district can solve this problem. I just hope that you're gonna push someone to do that. And also, I did have a couple of questions. I was wondering when routes are actually looked at every year, when they're started to look at, and when they are approved. And the public get a list of the approval things, so we don't have this issue again, where now we're in the middle of the year. And also, I would honestly like a copy or a link to the state guidelines of how we're meeting the minimals of the 2-mile rule. Is it 2 miles for walkers? That's all I could find. I'm not saying there isn't, or is it 2 miles to walk to a bus stop? The only thing I can find documentation of is that walkers cannot walk more than 2 miles. So where is it that we're meeting minimals?
I can have central office send you some information.
And do we know when the bus routes will be reworked?
No, I mean, bus routes are kind of reworked over the summertime as students enroll into the district, but you'll have a, for lack of a better word, a stagnant part of the operation where everybody continues to go to school year for a period, finite years, right? And say that you, so that kind of stays.
How many people in our district? In our district, how many people will have to drive?
By transport to a bus stop?
We have to drive, we're trying to get our kids.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a ballpark. Yeah.
Is it 5, is it 10, is it
I'm gonna
20?
give you a ballpark figure based upon the last time I talked to transportation about it. I put a number of like ballpark 30% of it.
30% of, like, what's that number?
300
300.
of the 30% of the population. Just a ballpark approximate.
And of those 30%, how many are at 50-mile-an-hour roads with no shoulder?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that, just taking a tour of Wantage, it's not really an ideal environment. Sidewalks, shoulders, right? Like I love living up in this part of the state, but those factors are kind of, challenging.
Yes, but I also don't think you can leave me a pond to grieve a road if you've ever driven on it.
Not even close, it's development, it's not a main
No, you
artery
can't
coming into
compare it.
Wantage.
There's no lines on it. We're talking about a county.
I mean, I shouldn't, I'm sorry. There's difficulties in Lake Leopold also, I mean, no, we don't have fast cars, but just because it's a lake community, doesn't mean that people drive as they should.
Exactly, but if you're driving 50 and a 30, how fast do you really think
I
those
get
people
it.
are driving in a 50 mile
I
an hour?
understand.
But the bus stop's not there though, right? The bus stop is on
It's on the corner of
Mount
Mount
Salem.
Salem. Greenville.
It's a mile down the road on a road that everybody flies on.
Well, the road is closed now, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
What's closed?
Greenville Road is closed.
You and I are going up there with a chainsaw.
Yeah,
later.
tonight, so my kids can get on the bus and her kids can get picked up on the corner.
How come a Sussex Regional School bus will go all the way out Route 284, past state line after picking up the last student, say a half mile before state line, because I was behind it and I have pictures. They pick the student up, they cross the state line, I have a picture of the bus driving by the Welcome to New York State sign, drives almost to the middle of Unionville, and then goes down a side street to turn around, and then comes back. I think they come back.
I think
That's the same exact kind of route that we have, so they can do it for them, but they can't do it for us.
Yeah, I think to Mom's point is that we have the credentials to be able to do that. That's why she's suggesting swap out the run, right?
It can be
Basically what you're
changed.
saying. Yeah.
It can be changed.
So like we go.
Changed during the school year.
Yeah, no, it's not as simple as like, hey, we're gonna start picking up these kids tomorrow. You guys do the other one. It would be
But I think
more.
what she's wanting to know is like a template of when.
So the
those
board would have to
discussions start.
decide to do something like this, and it's really rudimentary. But in a budget cycle, preparing for next school year, right? What Ms. Gunther's suggesting, I don't know what the word is now. One of our buses, who's permitted to go in the state, we go on trips to West Point, wherever, takes on a run like that because of the safety that the companies elect, over state line. And then whatever bus run that our bus was doing, go out to bid on that. The challenge or ripple effect with something like that is,
I know what it is. You lose that, you go up, if you switch the route, that one has to go out the bid.
As
Right,
opposed,
is that it?
as
So-
opposed to the renewal of the existing route that had CPI, which is usually less than 2%. So whatever we're paying now, going out to bid, we don't know where it'll be, but my guess is significantly higher.
Aside from that too, like you're gonna have to rely on whatever that hypothetical route would be, that a company will bid on that. And get it. If not, you gotta, how you gonna transport that, right? And another district I work with, as challenging as the situation was, we only have 3 buses, 2 of them dropped out a week before the start of the school year. We were able to scramble and get a company to pick those up, but that's just a challenge that's happening right now. I don't want to discourage you from it. The best resolution in my mind would have been that this company gives us a
Give
price.
us a price, 'cause
And I
we haven't
wasn't,
gotten a price,
I
right?
can't commit to the price, but something for me to take to the board to consider. My conversations with them very directly, we can't do that.
Right, and that's where last time I said, we need to have, but because I know you still don't get a price though, right? That nobody's willing to get a
Because they don't
price.
have a DOT number to go into.
But is it?
Or in preparation for that, again, like they're not operators of school buses, but some law enforcement people gave their opinion on it. And if the company would have changed their mind about the turnaround based on that, I've indicated publicly, I'm very supportive of it, let's go ahead with that. But they didn't.
Where that road is, that jets up. Is that New York or New Jersey? That's New Jersey.
That's New York.
New York.
I think it's
That
about-
road that
I
jets
think
New
up
York.
right
Old
there
Mountain
is
Road
New
is New York.
Crazy, but I think it's about 20 feet.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
20 feet over the border.
20 feet.
The house on the corner is Jersey.
Right, that
Then- then it's New York.
old house.
Right.
Cause I know like, years ago, like when I was a kid, I swear, where the bus
The
turned.
bus went down
Yeah,
there.
my
I've
brother
talked to
took
people
that
in town.
bus. It used to turn around.
Who's saying that? Somebody, I see somebody.
Me.
Oh, okay.
The bus used to go down if there were no kids on Mount Salem. There was never as many kids that lived in that area when I moved up here. The bus would go down, they would pick up Glen Road, Mount Salem. They would never go down Mount Salem, but they would go straight all the way down Greenville Road and turn around in that area at the end, right past where they
And
lived.
was that Dunn or Havens?
It was done bus.
But before they sold, or before this all happened, they still wouldn't give us a price, right? We didn't, this is all,
They told me it would be $5,000 to change the bid. To have it, or their bond. I'm
but they
sorry.
wouldn't give that to us, correct?
So my
But they said
conversation
it
was
was the
very
bond.
direct, multiple times, asked the same question, is there a figure? And that, I'm not talking astronomical figure, $100,000.
Honestly, I.
Is there a
told you I would go for
figure
that, like,
that you could give me to take to the board that we could consider? No, it's not.
You get a no, you get a number, and then it looks like we're
We're
not
pointing
doing,
fingers
correct.
back and forth to each other.
And the
That's
bus
why I was-
company that's saying no, not for nothing, they're selling. They don't really care.
Right, so they're not interested in getting the bond
They don't-
anyway,
They
you
don't
know?
care. They want one thing. They want
But
their
we
money.
can't force them to do that.
No, but we
Right.
can make this a district run next year.
Well, that can be looked at, but again, that's not something you
Yeah.
need.
Or Mrs. Riker, we go out to bid every year on the bus company or?
No.
So there are no-
Because
So what she's saying
we're
is
in
that
like,
CPI
we're in
would
like
only be a-
year 20 renewal with various subcontracting companies. So whatever that value is, the state tells them what CPI is, the routes.
It just
flow
goes up
through.
that little bit versus going out to a
Yes.
new bid, it could be I'm asking you, be about double the price?
I don't know what it'll be.
You can't get a bid.
We can't go,
You
we
can't
have to,
go-
we have to go out to bid to get a figure.
Are we
But
able,
wait.
are we able to
That's a
do
fair
that and then-
process,
No,
right?
no,
Like
no,
everybody
no,
gets
no.
to say.
Can you do that without giving up? Kind of to get an estimate,
Can you go out to
You know what
bid
I'm
and
saying?
still stay under contract while you go out to bid?
or do you have to terminate?
Can you switch, can you
I
not
you're asking me
switch?
questions that we'd have to make sure that we are following all the proper procurement laws and, what the state is.
And figures when they.
And if the business does, bus company.
I would be
then
happy
if they're
to
done, then we
approach.
have to redo everything anyway.
No, they assume all the
No,
routes that the.
like,
Oh, a new company would
somebody,
assume.
one of our prior vendors sold the routes to Kraft. Like, we
you
used to
keep their
have.
business.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that
so you keep the
happens, so they
But I
they
would be
take the
happy to
existing.
talk to the new company if they have.
Sure. Sure.
That's a no.
So would I, so would I.
So I don't think anybody would have an issue if we got a number in that range of, right? I mean, if they're willing to modify and then that would be the same, would it be an increase every year or is it just a one-time fee? Like,
A lot of hypotheticals.
all right, I'll stop. I'll let you guys do this, with the attorney.
We need to talk to the attorney about that, about going out to.
But I think what you want is something to look forward to, like, when is the.
And yeah, it'd be
A
during
time-
conversations during the budget cycle process, which we're gonna be doing imminently, right? And if a board wants to take on that. And I mean, you have my number, like, I'd love, Mr. Dunn never called me, but I'd love to talk to him just to pick his brain. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
I think, personally, I think I would like to see this at the latest resolved for next school year, but it doesn't feel like if the bus company's not gonna work with us, it'd be difficult to switch it mid-year, but.
Now, is there a possibility of doubling back with a van then, like other districts do? Because
See, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of bus services as it is. We don't have enough drivers, so it wouldn't matter if it's small bus, big bus, whatever, right, that would be difficult.
I would have to talk to the transportation department about that. I think more of the issue would be the determination that concern is so great that we would do that. Those vans are generally IEP driven. Special education students who have that in an IEP.
The guns and kids would be like, no buses.
I'm not gonna comment on any student's background.
One administrative one.
Can we try to get this resolved before, say, next summer when we find out, oh, guess what? We're driving again, sitting on Mount Salem Road.
Yeah, I think that would be, like you said, during the budget
If the
process.
budget cycle's like within the next 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah,
By then, so if we need to.
Well, I guess it would depend on, the bus company being brought out. Switching.
That's all just
When's the
we don't
closing
speak
date?
for the bus
Right.
companies, right?
It'd be nice if the news company would just, have you talked to them about the new company?
Yeah, they're not
Yeah, we don't know when that's.
willing to. Exactly.
But you don't know who it is, so you do.
Yeah, they told me, but it was supposed to happen in September, it was supposed to happen in October, it was supposed to happen in November. Now we're at the end of December.
Thank you. Are there any other audience remarks? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the board secretary certification.
Pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A 16.10C3, I certify that as of November 31st, your line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which in total exceed the line item appropriation in violation of NJAC 6A 23A 16.10.
Thank you, Ms. Stryker. At this time, we will move on to the approval of board minutes for October 27th, 2022, regular and executive session, and November 17th, 2022, regular and executive session. Looking for a motion, please?
Nick, can I just say something
Sure,
before?
of course.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad mentioned that there's a discrepancy on October 27th between executive session and regular session, so I'll review the attendance and make the appropriate correction to that.
Great, thank you. Looking for a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion Further discussion? All right, roll call please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes. You're just
Mrs.
approving the
Cooper Trinidad?
27th.
Huh?
Oh,
You're doing both together.
So then-
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Abstain on October 27th.
And yes to,
Yes. Yes, for November.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
yes.
Minutes are approved.
We have no need for the first executive session, so we move on to the presentation of agenda.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. Under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 21, pulling item 12 because it's further clarified, modified on the agenda.
Looking for a motion, please.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on personnel? Roll call please.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss? Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carried.
The policy, I'd like to move items 1 through 3.
Looking for a motion for policy, please.
I'll make that motion.
For a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 15.
Looking for a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Giuliano, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on finance? Roll call please.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Is this fair? I will abstain on that check.
Yes.
4, 3, 6, 7, 5. Thank you.
Yes to that.
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Abstain, finance number 2, check number 43759, yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Under special services, I'd like to move items 1 through 7.
I'll motion.
Mr. Nuss, looking for a second. Mr. Giuliano, any discussion on special services? Roll call please.
Mr. Nuss? Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Motion.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on curriculum? All right, roll call please.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yeah.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yeah.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion
Referring to the addendum under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 4. 4, just to make a note, it says at hourly rate as follows below. That's staff members, because then there's independent hourly rate based on their salary calculation.
Thank you, Mr. Gall, looking for a motion. Thank you, Mr. Nuss, looking for a
Second.
Mr. Giuliano, any discussion on personnel? Roll call please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion
And on the addendum policy, I'd like to move item number 1.
For a motion.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Do you have any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yeah.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Solberry? Yes. Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
And on the addendum special services, I'd like to move item number 1.
Motion.
Thank you. For a second. Thank you. Any discussion on special services? Roll call, please.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Chaconi?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion.
On the addendum under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Before we move.
Motion.
Thank you. For a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Chaconi?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes. At this time, we will move on to unfinished. Does anyone on the board have any unfinished business they would like to discuss?
I'm just gonna bring this up because again, we're gonna be talking about the budget cycle, and I'm sorry, my buddy Frank back there, you should flag me down, Frank. He's been kind of lingering around. One of the items that we talked about in the past, about bringing about, executing construction of is a greenhouse at Sussex Middle School. Put the pad in, we would have to budget more money to get the structure, it might have to go out to bid, right, depending upon the size of it. So, I know some people are passionate about it, some people probably not as passionate about it. Frank's had some experiences with greenhouses and just wants to be a resource of, not take a position on have it or don't have it, but here's some things that you need to think about if we have one. So you wanna go through a couple of those things? So my point is, going into the budget cycle, out of this meeting, I'd like to have a firm idea whether or not I should include a greenhouse, in the budget.
So I prepared a semi-long-winded speech. I'll keep it somewhat short. I just want the board to think about before we go ahead and we go out to bid for a greenhouse. In my prior district, obviously, I used to have one that was technically school, gorgeous. It never got used. Long story short, it was a target for vandalism. The glass makes a great object for kids to throw rocks at it. Given the proximity to the borough, we do get a lot of foot traffic through the area. One of the things to think about, the glass panes, the tempered glass with the, there's a gas inside it. It is not cheap whatsoever, pane breaks to replace it. I mean, we can go a cheaper route, go with like a plastic or something like that, same concept, it just doesn't hold up. My biggest thing that I want the board to think about is the growing season. Now you have March, the end of March, April, May. Come June, school's almost out, teachers are packing up their classrooms, they're getting final grades in, they got a lot to do come June. So the last thing a lot of them are thinking about is maintaining a curriculum that may be associated with the greenhouse. So now you have June, July, August, the 3 best months out of the growing season where no one's gonna be in school. So I just want, like I said, I want the board to really think about it,
How much do you look like, I'm ballparking?
I mean, you can get greenhouses as cheap as $3,000 for a small little, I'm envisioning that we wanna associate this with some form of curriculum, right? Where you can get a whole classroom inside it, so to speak. You'd be looking at probably like a 20 by 30 structure.
40, 50 grand. Ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
rather do that shop program that we talked about, or.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, you're gonna budget for all the things that you hope to have, right? Like.
Right. I would say probably with a, 20 by 30 structure, I was getting quotes in like the 35 to 40 range, and that was bare bones.
Yeah, you're talking about furnishings, you're talking about, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that.
Maintenance.
And
no,
then,
that's with no irrigation, no electrical, no plumbing, like that is the 40,000 bare bones.
and then
No
some of
benches.
the challenging points out, like some of the solutions might be, like you start a gardening club, you negotiate a stipend, you have kids coming over the summer, so that'd be something you budget for. You know what I mean?
I would start my suggestion, just to maybe throw a pilot program out there. I could do raised beds in the area that we prepared, because it's crushed stone right now. So there's no concrete pad, we could do anything with it. My suggestion would be to do some raised beds
$1,000 to $2,000. We do that, see if it takes off, if we get an interest, we build upon that. And we go from there.
What was the crushed stone put there for originally?
So the crushed stone was put there, we prepped an area, so I was getting ready for the greenhouse, right? Then we kind of had a concept, we were gonna do like an outdoor class, this is when COVID hit, we kind of were gonna go into an outdoor classroom kind of thing. That really didn't take off, so now it's really just a blank slate right now. We got some picnic benches out there, staff has lunch, we have kids, I guess, assume go out there for lunch sometimes.
And where did, once upon a time, I heard that somehow we had a greenhouse donated somehow. Where did, what am I
No,
talking?
so the original circumstance was, I was principal of the Wantage School. Kinder Morgan is the parent company of the Tennessee Gas Pipeline. They came in to do they had a relationship with a teacher, came in to do an informational lesson, gave out little saplings, trees, because they, part of putting in a gas line is some degree of deforestation, so they cut that squash of land. So they come in, they talk to schools, and they give the kids saplings to plant in compensation for that. And I was talking to the guy, and he's like, "This is a cool idea." I was like, "Yeah, you have little trees for every kid?" And he's like, "Yeah, we could do that." So then they gave like 400 trees. And then I'm a little bit of a schmoozer sometimes. So just talking to the guy, and he clearly to me wanted to do some kind of positive outreach publicity for the company. And long story short, I petitioned them, and they gave us a $25,000 grant. It was going to potentially be for the Get Part Environmental Center to put up a pavilion. And at that time, we looked into that, and all of a sudden you hit a lot of barriers with trying to do anything up there because of wetlands and DOE approval and all those kinds of things. And so that kind of got sidetracked, with the superintendent at the time. And I never lost track of it because I was the guy who wrote that stuff up, so I knew we always had $25,000 there. And then when I, probably in the superintendent interview process, I came up with the idea to steal the money from the Wantage School, give it to Sussex Middle School as an endeavor up here.
And where is that money now?
That time. So you had to do a lot of foundation work to level out that ground.
We had to do retaining wall.
Retaining.
So it's currently cost us that $25,000 grant
I-
to do.
Wasn't a grant, was it a grant?
Yeah, it was basically a grant.
Or donated, okay.
Right, so so far we spent $25,000.
You have a foundation for the project. That you can
Whatever
build
we
upon.
decide to go, whatever we decide to go with.
You were speaking very negatively, about
Well,
the
I
project, I get that you're trying to point this stuff out, but I'd like to.
I've had experience with them. I've talked to several different buildings and grounds guys who have them on the premises. And
Well, Frankfurt has one, right? Have you talked to them?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
It doesn't get used to its potential. And I wanna see the district spend the money wisely.
Me too.
Do something that can be used the majority out of the year instead of a very small
What can we use that pad for?
window.
And I don't
We could
think-
do raised beds up there.
Oh, just put raised beds on it.
And see if, like I said, see if there's an interest, see if it garners some momentum and
I don't think Frank really, I don't put words in your mouth, but I don't think, the conversations I had with him previously, he really takes a position on the greenhouse. Just no matter what we come up with in our vision for that, he'll try to make it successful.
I mean, if you guys decide to go for it,
And
I'm
the-
behind you.
And the
But I just want you
challenges,
to,
the challenges he's presenting are things we need to think about in the budget process to say, how do we address these? How do we, potentially have a water irrigation system? Does it have to be super expensive or could it be a rain catch system? You know what I mean? And you're teaching and learning about the greenhouse, you can do a lot. I have a degree in biology that I've never used, but you can do a lot of experimentation with plants and plant life and, really cool stuff. You have teachers here who are passionate about what they're doing. In my conversations, I think with Mrs. Bowen, strong advocate for that kind of thing. So.
You said that there's a lot of kids that show an interest, because we do still have fun in the area.
I mean, I like that.
Yeah, that's a part of the culture up here that you wanna respect too.
Yes, and you talk about home equity, wood shop and all this kind, so it all intermingles.
You know, we were
and
going up to
nowadays
Deuce's.
term of Steve.
When I was at Wantage, we were going up to Deuce's farm, doing the farm to school. We had the cafeteria coordinated with that, but you know, it's a massive farming operation that can sustain that. Everybody likes to say planting beds, greenhouse will help the cafeteria, but you're really talking about like one salad, you know what I mean?
For you, Mike.
I don't wanna put the horse before the cart. Let's start small, see if we have an interest, see if it can sustain itself, and then we go from there instead of spending $100,000 on a greenhouse with all the, you know, bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Start small, see if it sustains itself.
Thank you.
My suggestion.
Anybody have any other questions?
So flower beds up by Warren Schofield, like by the bird
They're used to be.
Yeah, but again, before my time, you guys, Mr. T and Mr. Coates, used to eat up the entire front of the building and do gardens up there, but that they were personally passionate about it. They worked, you know, basically 24/7, 365 days a year to maintain it. We tried to rekindle some of that, and we did little planting beds. Lawrence School even had a little planting bed, but something, I think Miss Silly back then, she had it maybe in the sand thumb.
I'd like to see, if we're gonna spend any money, I'd like to we still have volleyball nets set up for the kids.
I think that's just in the office, like.
Are they using that? That's
That's the fund, we don't even.
Right, so I mean,
So something you may wanna budget for is expansion opportunities at Sussex Middle School and student recreation.
yeah.
They don't really get like playground equipment at this age like you would have, you know.
No, but volleyball, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember the divots there.
You know,
I mean, we
there's
had that
something going on.
crappy ass net.
It's just we took the net down and the poles are still in place.
That net used to bother me like crazy.
I took it down.
I know you did, but how, you know, like,
Yeah. Shift gears a
you
little
guys
bit.
are lucky I'm gone.
One of the things I'm trying to brainstorm, and I just don't have a solution for is the vehicle route for Sussex Middle School. Like I got, you know, we reconfigured Wantage when I was there and it worked smooth. Partly reconfigured Lawrence School and built up that secondary driveway, but here it's just we're real tight based on the logistics of the building and I don't solution, but that traffic gets built up onto the road there, it's just not a good situation. I'd love to do something with it, but I really don't, I don't know if anybody has any ideas. No, I don't. I mean, you know, and in the past, superintendents have said, you know, ride the bus, but, you know, I have my own kids and I understand everybody's got funky schedules and they gotta go places and, you know, so we do have a significant number of people transport the kids to school. Any other questions for me? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Charles. All right, any other unfinished business?
So, I was at a wrestling match down in East Brunswick, and when it started, the Star Spangled Banner really loud and stood up, and I was like, I hope, do we do anything with our sporting events like that where there's some patriotic song that starts? I mean, it was just something nice, and I was like, wow, this is really nice. Everyone stood up, you know,
Yeah.
big music. We have.
Don't know if I've ever been at a circle.
We do it in wrestling, we've done it in baseball. We
Yeah,
do
but I'm
it-
saying in the school.
Oh, in the school. I
Like,
know.
are there sporting events in the school like that? The kids are out.
Yeah, I mean, you got basketball games right now. You know, we started back when I was at Wantage doing flags for the unison, and that's been carried out to all. But no, I don't think I've ever been at an event where we played the Star Spangled Banner.
Well, I'm just saying something
Yeah.
that has some patriotism because it seems like it's lacking. And it was just really nice to go to an event and.
So we love America,
I know, but let's show it.
It would be a nice way for maybe someone in our chorus to sing as well.
Mm.
Give them the opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
Just something that I noticed. Let me look at my notes while we. So, I just wanna know where the board, I don't know, I heard that policy was coming down the pike, you may know. I don't know when, but there might be an opportunity for kids to have, the teachers to have like a, I don't even can say it. Like, however you identify in a particular class. Like, I know it's coming in New Jersey, but have you heard any policies where maybe in health or something, you're going to be able, kids are gonna be able to pick how they identify and be like separate. You haven't heard anything about that?
Oh, rather, I think they said something about rather than being able to split up the boys and the girls or something, you can't do that. But it's not that.
You've heard about that?
And split up the boys and girls.
Something like that. Unless you're a cat, I think.
Along those lines, are we ever gonna have litter boxes in our classroom?
You know, and and again, I'm going back.
It's like as crazy as it sounds, it's an actual question, because I know other schools are doing that.
You know,
Is that something I'm gonna have to worry about? Like,
I can tell you about that.
If you
and
hear
again-
anything like that, come to the board meeting.
oh, my kid's out of school if I hear anything like that.
No disrespect to any group or anything like that, but at the onset of this school year, I got a call from a reporter with that inquiry.
I got a call from the health department.
Yeah, that's not helping.
You know, our
to have
answers
litter
were
boxes in
no, but,
classrooms.
you know, that was a legitimate reporter called and asked that. It was apparently.
You know, there's no litter boxes in our school, and that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, go ahead, lay the word.
I'd like to, as a matter of fact, I'd like to put on record that if you identify as a dog or a cat, you're not allowed in our school buildings. Unless, what'd you say, unless you're a service dog?
Emotional support animal.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Any other unfinished business? All right, any new business?
Yeah.
All right, new business? All right, well, new business, Merry Christmas, to everybody. And happy, healthy New Year. We will move on to audience remarks again. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. All right, seeing none, we do need to go into the second executive session on non-agenda items. No action will be taken and we'll be in there for approximately 15 minutes. So if you'd like to hang around, you can. If not, we will see you We are back in public session, and I would like to look for a motion to adjourn, please.
I would like to make the last motion.
I'll make the last second.
Great, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Nuss, Mr. Giuliano, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Stahl, if you're watching, thank you too. Merry Christmas.
Merry
You actually texted me.